Hey everybody, ready for another deep dive with us? We're going to be tackling a really cool concept today.
Yeah, really interesting stuff.
It's all about how to kind of get a fast track to fluency when you're learning a new language.
I mean, who doesn't want that? Right.
Right, like it can be so overwhelming when you're first starting out. You know,
Yeah.
you're looking at this mountain of vocabulary, like how am I ever going to
It's a lot. Yeah.
learn all of this? So we're going to be focusing on this idea of mastering just the top 1,000 words.
That's it. Just 1,000.
Yeah, just 1,000 words in any language.
It sounds kind of crazy, but when you look at the research, there's some pretty amazing findings backing this approach up.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. So tell me more about this research. Like, what have they found?
Well, it all comes down to this idea called Zipf's law. Have you ever heard of that?
Um, I feel like I've heard of it, but I definitely couldn't explain it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that sounds way more complicated than it actually is. Basically, what it means is that the most frequently used words in any language, they're the heavy lifters.
Oh, that makes sense.
They carry the most weight.
Okay, so how much weight are we talking about here?
Okay, so get this. The top 1,000 words make up like 80%
80%.
of everyday conversations
Wow.
and written text.
That's incredible. So
Yeah.
it's not just like random words. It's like the core.
It's the foundation. It's like the building blocks of the whole language.
That's amazing. Okay, so you master these and basically you're like,
You're well on your way.
yeah.
You're well on your way to fluency. You can start to understand everyday conversations. You can read basic texts. You can even start expressing yourself.
I can totally see that. You know, when I was first starting to learn Italian, it was so amazing the first time I could like put together a simple sentence
Oh, yeah.
and actually understand the response.
Like a light bulb moment.
It totally is, yeah. And it was such a huge motivation boost, you know?
It is, because I think sometimes people give up on languages because they feel like I'm never going to get there.
Right.
But if you have these early wins, it really helps you stick with it.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, our listeners are all about efficiency. Like they want to get the most out of their time. So
Right.
this sounds like a really great approach for them.
Absolutely. It's about focusing on the high impact stuff. And, it actually goes deeper than that.
Oh,
This approach really taps into how our brains are wired for learning.
okay. Now, I definitely want to hear more about this. So tell me.
Yeah, so our brains are designed to prioritize the things that we see over and over again.
Okay.
The things we encounter frequently. So it's like, imagine like a path in the woods. The more you walk that path, the more defined it becomes. And it's the same with these top 1,000 words.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
By drilling these words regularly, you're like etching them into your long-term memory.
Okay, so we're talking about like Pareto principle here, right?
Exactly. 80-20 rule, you get maximum results from a concentrated effort.
Cool. So like a brain hack for faster language learning.
I like that. I like that.
I like that too.
Right.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory,
Yeah.
but what does it actually look like in practice? Like, are we just talking about flashcards and memorizing lists? And
No.
because that sounds pretty boring to me.
No, it's actually the opposite. Like, the key is to learn these words in context.
Oh, okay.
Right? Not just like in isolation.
Yeah.
Because even in English, think about how many different meanings one word can have.
Oh, absolutely. Like the word run, for example.
Yeah, perfect example.
You can run a marathon. You can run a business. You can have a run in your stockings.
Right. So many.
It's all about context.
Exactly. Context is everything. So rote memorization is not going to cut it. You need to see these words, hear these words in action.
So reading and listening.
Reading and listening to native speakers, that's where it's at.
And speaking of resources, there's this website called sciencebasedlearning.com that we came across. And they have a really cool approach to this.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
So they have these books that are specifically designed for language learners. And they're pre-written with the top 1,000 words.
Oh, wow.
In all these different languages. And they're used in like really simple sentences right from the beginning.
So you're getting that context right away.
Yeah, exactly. So you're learning in context from day one.
I love that.
And they also have these spaced repetition lists.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you can really like drill those words and make sure they stick in your memory.
That's brilliant because, spaced repetition is like a proven method for memory retention.
Like a little personal tutor built right in.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so reading and listening are great, but we can't just passively do those things, right? Like we have to actually use the words.
You got to practice is key.
If we want to be fluent.
Yes. Speaking and writing, even if it feels awkward at first,
Yeah.
is essential.
Totally. It reminds me of learning to play the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at first it's like, I can barely even hit these chords one at a time.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they start to flow together into like a song.
And then the magic happens.
Exactly. And I feel like language is similar. Those individual words are like your building blocks. And then as you master those,
It starts to flow.
it starts to all flow together. Yeah.
Yeah, and the more you practice, the easier it gets.
This is making so much sense. So basically what we're saying is if you want to like supercharge your language learning, focus on those top 1,000 words.
Yeah.
It's like hitting the fast forward button on fluency.
Like a cheat code.
I like that. Okay. But I know there's more to it than just that, right? Like this whole approach also taps into some pretty cool cognitive science principles
It does.
that actually make learning more effective. So tell me more about that.
Okay, so it goes back to this thing called cognitive load theory.
Okay.
And basically our brains, they only have so much working memory,
Right.
And if we try to learn too much at once, it's like overload.
Like that overstuffed suitcase.
Yes, exactly. It's like you can't zip it closed anymore. Yeah, so how does this relate to the top 1,000 words? Well, by prioritizing these high-frequency words, we're actually reducing that cognitive load.
Okay.
We're giving our brains, like, manageable chunks of information.
So we're decluttering our mental workspace.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then another really fascinating thing happens as we master these words.
What's that?
It's called chunking, basically. Our brains start to group these words together into, like, meaningful units.
So instead of thinking like, I want coffee, it's just like, I want coffee.
Exactly. It becomes automatic.
Nice.
And that automaticity is the key to fluency, right?
Yeah.
Being able to speak and understand without having to consciously think about every single word.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So we've talked about why this approach works and how it works.
Yeah.
But why should our listener care? Like, what kind of difference will this make in their language learning journey?
I think the biggest thing is the feeling of empowerment you get.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine being able to understand a good chunk of what you're hearing or reading in your target language, even when you're just starting out.
Like those early wins.
Yes, those early wins are so crucial.
Totally. It's like that moment when you suddenly realize, like, hey, I can actually follow this conversation.
Exactly.
I can read this sign.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not just about the motivation boost either. This approach also lays a really solid foundation
Yes.
for future learning.
It's
So
building a house.
exactly. It's like you need that strong base.
The foundation.
Yeah, and then you can build on top of that.
You can add the walls, the roof, all the finishing touches.
I love that analogy. So it's like creating this mental map of the language with those 1,000 words as like the main landmarks.
I like that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you can keep adding those new details and routes.
Yeah, as you continue learning. But those core landmarks are always going to be there.
Exactly.
Wow, this is amazing. We've covered so much ground today, from the science behind this approach to practical tips for using it. But before we wrap up part one here, I want to leave our listeners with something to really ponder.
Oh, something to think about. So
Right. I like it.
imagine this.
Sure.
You could magically master the top 1,000 words in your target language right now.
Like that.
What would be the first thing you would do with this amazing ability?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It really opens up a world of possibilities, right?
It does. I mean, would you finally book that trip you've been dreaming of
Oh, yeah.
to that country you've always wanted to visit? Or would you, like, strike up a conversation with a local
Ooh, yeah.
at your favorite cafe? Or maybe finally watch that foreign film without the subtitles?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, there's so many possibilities. And, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
Like, our deep dive today is just scratching the surface.
It's just getting started.
There's a whole universe of language learning techniques and resources out there, but having those core words as, like, your foundation,
Gives you a huge advantage.
it really does. But it's important to remember that language learning is a journey, right?
It is. It's a marathon.
Yeah.
Not a sprint. Exactly. So how can our listener keep that momentum going? Like, how can they really make those 1,000 words a part of their daily life?
Well, consistency and practice are key, of course.
Of course.
You're not going to become fluent overnight,
Right.
but little by little, like weaving these words into your routine,
Yeah.
you'd be amazed at how much progress you can make.
So what are some practical ways our listener can do that, even if they're not immersed in the language all the time?
Let's see. Well, you could try changing the language settings on your phone
Oh, yeah.
or your social media accounts.
I like that that's like a little mini immersion.
It is. It's like right there in your pocket.
Yeah. And you're forced to interact with those high frequency
Right.
words
Right,
in a
exactly.
practical way.
It's not just passive exposure either. Like, you've got to use them actively,
Right. So, like,
even in small ways.
what could they do?
Well, you could label things around your house,
Oh, yeah.
in your target language, or try thinking to yourself in the language throughout the day.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, using those core words to describe what you're doing, what
Yeah.
you're thinking.
I love that. And also, like, don't underestimate the power of just talking to yourself
Yes.
in the language.
Practice speaking out loud,
Yeah,
even if you feel silly.
for sure. And then eventually you'll feel more comfortable actually talking to other people.
Exactly.
Like even simple things like ordering food at a restaurant,
Yes.
asking for directions can be a great way to practice.
Every interaction is a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
It's all part of the process.
We've all been beginners at something.
Exactly.
It's all about embracing that journey and like celebrating the little milestones along the way.
The little wins.
So we've talked about all the great things about mastering those top 1,000 words,
Mhm.
but are there any like drawbacks to this approach?
That's a good question. And, it's important to remember that this is a great strategy,
Yeah.
but it's not a magic bullet
Right.
for complete fluency.
Like you're not going to
Language is complex.
be perfectly fluent.
It's nuanced, and there's always going to be more to learn.
Right. So it's like laying the foundation for a house.
Yes.
You need that solid base,
Yeah.
but you also need walls and a roof
All the finishing touches.
and all the finishing touches. Yeah.
Correctly.
So it's not about limiting yourself to just those 1,000 words,
Right.
but it's more about using them as a springboard
Yes.
to launch yourself into the deeper parts of the language.
I love that.
This has been so eye-opening. We've learned so much about the power of these words
Me too.
and how they can really unlock a whole new world in language learning. But before we wrap things up, I think it would be fun to leave our listener with a little challenge.
Ooh, I like a good challenge.
So what do you think about this? We challenge our listener to pick just one
Okay.
of those top 1,000 words
All right.
and use it in a real-life situation today,
I love it.
like a small but powerful step
It is.
to put this into action.
It makes it.
It does, yeah. So maybe it's something as simple as using a greeting like
Mm-hmm.
hello or thank you
Yeah.
in the language at the store,
Yeah.
or maybe trying to order your coffee in the language.
Exactly. Something small,
Yeah.
but it can make a big difference.
And who knows? Maybe that one small interaction will inspire you to use even more words the next day.
Right. It could snowball
Yeah.
into something bigger.
So to our amazing listeners, we encourage you to embrace this challenge. Pick one word. Use it today
Do it.
and let us know how it goes.
We're rooting for you.
We are. And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes.
Language learning should be enjoyable.
It's all about connecting with another culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure diving deep with you today.
Likewise.
I'm feeling super inspired to dust off my own language learning goals
For me too.
and put all these strategies into practice.
It's a good reminder that
Yeah.
no matter where you are in your journey,
Yeah.
there's always more to learn.
So until next time, happy learning, everybody. I love it. It's taking those first few steps, on that language learning journey.
Exactly. Yeah. And it makes it feel less intimidating, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's not this big abstract goal anymore.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I can actually do this.
You can.
Okay, so to our awesome listeners out there, we encourage you to take on this challenge.
Yes.
Pick one word, use it today,
One word. That's it.
and let us know how it goes.
We want to hear about it.
And remember, the most important thing is to have fun.
Have fun. Yes.
Language learning should be a joyful
It
experience.
should be about connecting with another culture.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure diving deep with you again today.
Always a pleasure.
I'm feeling so inspired
Me too.
to keep learning.
It's contagious.
It is so. Until next time, we're going to happy learning